Hey everyone, Coach Micah here, and welcome back to the channel. In our last video, we took the resolution and we wrote an affirmative case in just under 20 minutes using a parley preparation drill that will help you in all areas of your speech and debate career, especially with debate. We're going to be doing the same thing today except for the negative side, and then in coming videos we will use the cases that we have written and turn them into full cases with rhetoric and things like that. And the reason we're doing this case drill is because the best way to get your brain to start thinking about ideas and to come up with a position that you find persuasive is to fully trust yourself to think through the arguments without any research, and your brain is going to think of arguments that are good. Now, we can learn how to think about better arguments, and that is something that you will improve as you gain more skills in debate. But for now, we're going to use our understanding of what we already know to write a negative case. Now, I may know more than you as a coach and as someone who has written about this resolution, and if you want access to some of the research that I've done, then click the link in the description of this video. But who knows, maybe you'll know things that I don't know about these topics. I'm not perfect, I don't know everything. So what I want you to do is join me for this drill. It'll be live, it's just 20 minutes. I'm not going to skip or anything like that, and we're going to write a negative case for the resolution. Here is the affirmative case that we wrote last time. We, of course, started with some definitions of everything. We had a resolutional analysis of the greatest impact for society. We also had a resolutional analysis talking about exclusivity. And basically, we framed the round here by saying that we're talking about which one is going to help society most, and that within a particular example, valuing over means choosing one over the other. Like, we can't have both equally happening at the same time. You have to sacrifice one for the other in that scenario, because you can't, when you spend time learning something, you can't get that time back. So they are exclusive. We use the value of opportunity, the idea of having a chance out in the real world. The reason we said this value is good, our value link, was that it has the best societal impact. Whichever side creates more opportunity for the average person is therefore more valuable. And if, as a whole, it creates more opportunities for society, then it should be valued over. We had our first contention, which was practical skills equal opportunity, or in this case, uphold opportunity. And we had two applications, the workforce and being well-rounded. Having multiple skills, being able to do a host of different things allows you to have more opportunity, and therefore the impact is that it's more valuable. The second contention was that theoretical knowledge does not uphold or provide opportunity. We had an application of fewer jobs. If you don't have skills, you're going to have a harder time finding a job, and there's fewer jobs out there that require sole theory. We also have the application of regress, which is the idea that if you theorize too much, you're just wasting your time because nothing will ever come of it. And therefore, our impact was that it is less valuable. It is now time to write the negative case, so I have my timer pulled up. Get all situated in my seat here. And let's go ahead and take this resolution. And as you'll notice, I have it pre-written this time. We will go ahead and begin. Like I said last time, what we need to figure out is what the resolution means. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes is usually the structure. 5 minutes to find what the resolution means, 10 minutes to write down the arguments, and then another 5 minutes to think about what your opponents are going to say. That extra 5 minute there is more useful for parley, since you're going to be prepping this, prepping responses before the tournament even starts. But practical skills should be value over theoretical knowledge. We need to, as the negative, make sure that the judge does not agree or does not think that practical skills are that valuable. We, of course, need to make theoretical knowledge sound as valuable as possible. But first, of course, we got to figure out what practical skills even are. So practical skills, we'll have a definition of practical skill. We'll say that it is an ability to do something well, that is, in the real world. So the ability to do something, we'll even maybe say specific, kind of narrow down the impact. So to have one particular skill is very specific. It doesn't automatically mean you're going to do more than just that thing. So using words like specific helps us to limit the impact of practical skills and make theoretical knowledge. And we'll use that by saying definition of theoretical knowledge is having general understanding of the concepts and or principles, and then we would say regarding a subject. So theoretical knowledge is having a general understanding of the concepts and or principles of a subject. So we're basically saying here that practical skills are very specific, they're small, they're not applied to a lot of things, while theoretical knowledge is general and it helps you to have an understanding, and understanding is important. So now we need to ask ourselves, are there any ways to limit the resolution? I might have a resolutional analysis of societal need. And basically what I'm saying with societal need is that whatever society needs is therefore going to be the context of the resolution. So if society doesn't need practical skills or theoretical knowledge, then we get our value, but what society needs most. So societal need, okay. And then we need to figure out, in fact, maybe this could even be a value. So we'll hold this. We'll hold this for now and see if that can become a value. But what does it mean that we should value something over? We'll probably have a resolution analysis of education, or maybe we would say like context of education, right? We're talking about where students learn, because practical skills and theoretical knowledge, you have to be able to learn both those things. So when learning practical skills or theoretical knowledge, this happens in an education setting, and taking classes or getting trained. Classes, trained. What should the education sphere focus on? Okay. I do think for this particular case, we will leave societal need as the resolutional analysis that talk about, the should idea, and how it is valued over. The resolutional analysis of the education gives us the context of where this resolution happens. And logically, generally what you'll do is actually switch these, because you determine what the context is first. And once we're in the context, then we can limit this. Perfect. And now we need, of course, to have a value. So what we were trying to do here was say that theoretical knowledge gives us a general understanding. And the reason generality is important is because it can be applied to a lot of different things. So the question is, how do we value this? How do we know whether or not, how do we link this to societal need? What exactly does society need when it comes to what theoretical knowledge can offer? We'll make a list here just on the side to help us think of some ideas. And I'm going into this cold, by the way. I didn't read up anything before this because I want to simulate as much as possible being, pressured to write a case in a quick amount of time when maybe you aren't fully comprehending things. The best tip I can give you is to just talk out loud. Ask questions out loud. Think out loud, because hearing yourself talk often stimulates more creativity and idea. That's why reading aloud is really important to reading comprehension, right? So we could say critical thinking. I know a lot of people like the moral argument to say that theoretical knowledge includes ethical and moral understanding. So critical thinking, moral, we could honestly take something that practical skill might use and say we're talking about like the workforce in this sense, or even opportunity. Yeah, in fact, you know what? I think for the trying to stay in something that the judge can understand. The judges like things that are tangible. Take a quick drink. Judges like things that are tangible, things they can see. I like the idea of opportunity for this particular case. Opportunity. Okay, great. What is opportunity? It is a chance someone gets based off their knowledge and experiences. And I'm using particular words here. And the affirmative might say skills, based off their skills. I'm going to say based off their knowledge and experiences. So then, of course, I'm going to have my value link. Why is this the best value? We would say best measure for context. Because remember, we want to make sure that we have continuity in our cases. So because we're talking about the resolutional analysis of education, that means that we therefore need to work within the education sphere. So what does education do? It is designed to give students more opportunities. You learn a general amount of things in your education. So for example, all these classes, learning the basic understandings and concepts. And then of course that allows you to go to college if you want to. And even there within college, you learn a lot of, you have like a liberal arts degree, right? The idea that you're just getting a lot of general knowledge, general understanding, which is really important because that can help you specialize in things. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So we have about 11 minutes and 45 seconds left. Contention 1. Let's see here. Contention 1, we're going to do... And the contentions are the easiest part, right? So theoretical knowledge creates more opportunity. And I imagine as debaters, we would tell our judges that practical skills, you can just say PS, and then theoretical knowledge is TK, because obviously writing those things would take a long time. Theoretical knowledge creates more opportunity. Why does it create more opportunity? Let's do an application of concepts, or in this case, we're going to do an application of applying concepts. I have a couple of examples under here. It is true that if you learn how to do statistical analysis and you can do statistical work, stats exist in multiple different industries where if you're skilled in just only being able to do one part of statistics for a particular industry, if you can understand the concepts and the principles behind statistics as a whole, you can therefore understand and do statistics else. And that is another thing as well. There's two schools of thought. You'll read about this in my resolutional analysis document, but there's two schools of thought of what happens when you gain knowledge. Some people believe that once you've gained knowledge, you are therefore able to apply it immediately because that's what knowledge does. It impacts your behavior. Whereas some people believe it doesn't matter what you know, you still won't be able to behave in that way. We're going to take the perspective of once you gain theoretical knowledge, conceptual knowledge, you will be able to apply it, right? And that's because you can't get rid of one over the other. So I might even go back and have a resolutional analysis of general rule. The idea that we are just going to look at the thing that generally should be valued over, because this is not ultimately an exclusive resolution. There are some skills that you need, and any type of behavior that has an impact and can gain you something out in the real world that is relevant, we could argue is a skill. So it's hard to argue that those things would never exist. Anyways, theoretical knowledge creates more opportunity. You have the idea of applying a concept, how powerful a concept is. So we can look at this in stats. We might also have another application of a theory-laden skill. There are skills out there that are theoretical skills and it's skill sets in different careers. So you have like a lawyer. You also have other people. So people being able to diagnose. Maybe you have philosopher, therapist, right? Counselor, things like that. And this applies to all. We could even say that creates more opportunity because it applies to all areas of life. We might have an application of something like a college. Let's go down here. Application of a college education. You're taught all these different classes, and you're taught for a reason, because it's important to understand the concepts. And most people go to these colleges, even if they end up specializing in one thing over another, they are still giving their time to learning and taking those core classes, because you have to be able to understand the core amount of things in order to qualify for a degree, because having core knowledge gives you more opportunity. So obviously then we have contingent 2, practical skill. Creates less opportunity. We have an application here talking about, or maybe we could even create these into subpoints. So one at a time. To learn a skill, you have to be educated, you have to experience, you have to practice, and things like that. And that takes a lot of time. You're learning one at a time, where maybe, as you know, the other side is that theoretical knowledge does not only happen once at a time. One at a time. We'll have to check the validity of that claim. Again, this is just a resource, and I don't want you to get stuck in a prep like this and be like, wait a minute, is that actually true? The goal here is just to get pen on paper, ink on paper. You and we are going to look at the validity of these arguments in another video. We're going to actually do some research once we have our full case. And it is when we do that research, we'll be able to figure out whether or not these arguments are truly strong. But for now, we just want to make that claim. And another thing about debate is, while of course I want you guys to be honest, and I don't want you to mislead your judges on purpose, if you truly do believe that something is correct, make sure that you're at least confident about it. Because if you're unsure, that leads to less credibility on your part, and that could actually harm whatever case you're trying to write. So just keep that in mind. We're almost at 5 minutes left, and we've gotten pretty far here. We could even probably end up making some responses, but let's see what happens. So practical skills, we have one at a time. I think another keyword is here, specific. We might also argue that practical skills, we would say is maybe too much time. We might even say subpoint C, is it true that practical skills longer to educate, maybe too much time to educate, something like that. Just the idea of time. Okay, creates less opportunity. Why would it create less opportunity? One skill at a time. Maybe we change it to that. So we have A, one skill at a time. B, one field at a time. And basically the impact, we've got impacts. Impact is that, takes too long, right? Creates more opportunity, therefore we have the impact up here. We got if you can, always have an impact. The impact is that theoretical knowledge is more valuable. Society needs people to have a skill set. Society needs people to have, I guess as I'm negative, I need to say society needs people to be able to generally have a good amount of general knowledge and conceptual knowledge. And you'll notice that I'm going at it with a very amoral direction in this case. I'm not talking about ethics. I'm not talking about morality. I'm more so just talking about the career and the workforce. We'll clean up this paper here right after this drill is over, and I'll show you exactly where we got. But we could probably think some arguments up that the affirmative might try to run. So the affirmative might try to say, like, for example, a theory-laden skill. They're going to try to maybe talk about how that is a skill and therefore is practical. We are probably going to respond by one saying that this is a general, I'm just going to say GR. It's a general rule, but also we're going to say that, different type of skill. Basically trying to argue that a theory-laden skill is more so theory than it is practical, because you, of course, would have to make that connection. But we're arguing with, and even maybe it is a type of practical skill. However, it is not people don't think of the practicality of it necessarily. They think about how it is based in theory. So we would say maybe foundation of theory. Yes, having the ability to practice law or to be a therapist, a counselor, is a skill. You have learned theory. You got a theoretical education in order to do these well, not a practical education, if that makes sense. You were learning you were learning all the theories out there, and that's where the application comes in. So this is a foundation of theory, not a foundation of the element of practical skill. That's why we say the ability to do something specific well. If we go back to our definition, right? The ability to do something specific well. Therapist, counselor, lawyer, that's not a specific thing. That is a big thing. We would maybe say that as another response, not specific. So therefore, if it's a different type of skill, it's not a practical skill. Okay, great. Is there anything else we want to do? We have a minute left. Creates less opportunity. And of course, I want you guys to be thinking about how you could respond to this case, because maybe someone out there runs this case or a very similar case. Maybe, great minds think alike. So think about how you might respond to these arguments, if you find them strong or not. This is just what we're going with our limited amount of research today, just starting cold, getting thrown straight into the fire. We got less than a minute left. Practical skills, theoretical knowledge. Maybe we have a definition, just kind of looking at should be valued over, and then of course we would make those go with the resolutional analysis points there. And don't worry guys, here in a second I will rewrite this to make it look clearer and cleaner. But I think that's it. With the 30 seconds left, basically what we're trying to argue and what the thesis of our case is that, society needs people with a general understanding of concepts. And that theoretical knowledge is ultimately what gives us that. So that is our timer. I think we've done pretty good for ourselves here. Let's go ahead and write this in a cleaner way. And while I'm getting this ready, if these videos are helpful for you and you want to do better yourself at writing cases, whether it be writing cases or coming up with arguments or trying to figure out how to do cross-examination better, you can always book me. I'm coachmicahdiaz@gmail.com. And if you want to reach out to me there and try to figure out a time to meet with me, let's get it done. I'm here to help you guys prepare for the national tournament, and I want to do the best I can and create content that's relevant for you. So make sure that you do that. All right. Let's do this. So we of course have the resolution, and ultimately what we did was we had the definitions. We had definition of practical skill. We had definition of theoretical knowledge. We had a link here. This should be valued over rhetorically, right? Should be valued over. We put this into our resolutional analysis of education, context of education. Okay. We also had the, let's do that there. We also had a resolutional analysis of societal need. So we're looking at whatever is best for society as a whole, and that is a utilitarian ethical argument, by the way. And of course, we had a resolutional analysis of general rule. Great. We had our value, which was opportunity. We had a value link, which was best measure. Best measure. And then, of course, first contention is that theoretical knowledge creates more opportunity. Right? And then we had a couple of applications for this. We would say application, applying concepts. We also had an application of college structure, the way college is structured, higher education, high school, any education structure, but I guess we just said college here. We also had an application of theory-laden skill. Then we had our impact. Impact, which is that theoretical knowledge is more valuable. I was writing M for more, but theoretical knowledge is more, double thick V for valuable. There we go. Great. Then we had contention 2. Let's see here. Practical skills create less opportunity. Great. We had subpoint A, 1 skill at a time. B, 1 field at a time. And then I had an impact of takes too long, but I ultimately think now that I think about it, obviously want to say the impact is that practical skills less valuable. Okay, so this is our negative case here. What we're gonna do in the next couple of videos is take the cases that we wrote, and then we're going to do research. So hopefully you did this drill with me. I have the case that I wrote, you have the case that you were able to come up with. We're going to take these and we're going to turn them into actual cases, and I will show you how to do the rhetoric for that. We could start coming up with some refutation, some other points, and hopefully some cross-examination. But yeah, this is really easy to do, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. All you have to do when you're trying to come up with cases is just talk out loud to yourself. Ask yourself questions. What does this mean? What is it trying to say here? How do I make this better? And you want to sound confident as you answer yourself. This is what this means. This is what I'm going to write, etc. So if you thought these videos have been helpful, then I would appreciate a subscription. I want to keep creating content for you, and I will as we get towards the national tournament in just a few months. But for now, that is where we're going to end today's video. I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.